Praise the King. Welcome to Live on CUBN, Christians United Broadcasting Network. Glory to the Lord. Let's get right straight into our Bible prophecy timeline update. We're going to go over the evidence again today as to when it looks like Jesus is coming. And no, I'm not kidding you. This is research, not magic. We do have dates for you that are biblically aligned. It's research, not magic. We're watching for the King and we're looking at scriptural possibilities. So these aren't predictions, but I can give you dates of what the evidence says. Now, that doesn't mean they're right, but I'll show you the evidence and you look at it yourself and you determine what you think about it yourself. We are headed into the 17th month of the tribulation period. That's incredible, isn't it? Wow. 17th month we're headed into. We are seeing some really big events happening in the world with Brexit. Then we've got over here at Breaking Israel News. Mouse here. Breaking Israel News says Brexit chaos could be gateway to Messianic era, says end of days rabbi. Duh! Yes, this is extremely significant in Bible prophecy because now the EU is falling to pieces, and what is going to rise in from those ashes will be a European superstate, probably headed up by Germany. Now, does that sound familiar? The thing that hath been is the thing that shall be, and the thing that hath been done is the thing that shall be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. This conglomerate superstate in Europe will have 10 kings that will be given power with Antichrist for 1 hour. And then those 10 kings are the ones who end up destroying Rome, seizing the assets of the church and destroying it with fire. Then the Pope will need a new church/palace to sit on his throne with his crown on his head, letting all the world leaders come and bow down to him. And when he attempts to do exactly what he's doing now in the newly rebuilt temple, he will defile it and the abomination of desolation will occur. These things are extremely feasible. I mean, all he has to do is attempt to live in the temple like he lives in the Vatican right now. And if he is instrumental in getting the temple built and then the Vatican is destroyed, it's normal and logical to assume that he's going to want to live instead in the temple he has helped build right there on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. These things are coming to pass right before our very eyes. It's amazing, isn't it? Let's go through the evidence quickly. I want to just keep giving it to you. I want you to know it by heart. It's so simple. I can lay it out for you in a very short period of time. It's so simple that I want you to get to where you can show it to people too. Okay? If this theory is correct, then we need to spread the word far and wide of when it looks like Jesus is coming. So where do we start? We start with Daniel's 70 weeks of years. Go to Daniel chapter 9. And I'm going to lay all of this out for you. I want you to get to where you can share this with people yourself from memory. It's real easy. And that's another reason I think it's probably correct. It could be, because it's just so easy. Now, let's go to Daniel 9:24. It shows 70 weeks of years. 1 week of years is 7 years, for a total of 490 prophetic years. These 490 prophetic years, it requires that the Jewish people be in control of Jerusalem. Okay? So it tells us in verse 25 that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto Messiah is 7 weeks, 62 weeks. Now that's until his return that we are looking at now. But it says the street shall be built again and the wall even in troublous times. But this says after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off in verse 26. So it says 434 years or 62 weeks of years had passed when the clock was paused at the crucifixion. So it's until Messiah is cut off, and then it's paused for 2,000 years or more. Then, well, not quite, not over 2,000 years, but almost 2,000 years. So the clock is paused, the temple is defiled in 70 AD, literally, and the Jews are scattered. Then, see, the prophecy requires for the Jews to be in control of Jerusalem. The prophecy is for the people and the city together. So the clock can't run unless the Jews are in control of Jerusalem. So it doesn't run for 2,000 years. And then Israel is reborn in 1948, but they still didn't have control of Jerusalem until June 1967. That is when the prophetic clock began to tick again. And if you add 1967 plus 56 years remaining on that prophetic clock, you get 2023. Now, that means that June 2023 is the very furthest end of the prophetic generation. It's all over and done by then. But we know also that God shortened the days. He said he shortened the days in Matthew. Boy, my pages are going everywhere. Matthew 24. Verse 22, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So the Lord has taken that final 7-year block and he's picked the whole thing up and moved it backwards just a little bit and then set it back down. So we need to find out when our tribulation period perimeters are. Now, the very latest the 7-year tribulation can be is June 2016. Yeah, that's what I said. This is the last day of June 2016. We're in it up to our eyeballs. But this is the very latest it could be, June 2016 through June 2023. But he shortened the days, so we know it actually started prior to this month. So how do we find out when it actually started? Now, what we do is we look at the midpoint. If you have the midpoint, you can count forward and backward 1,260 days and find your tribulation period parameters. So to find the midpoint, what we have to do first is take our very far end of June 2023 and subtract 3.5 years to find out the very latest our midpoint could occur. Because we know that after the midpoint, there's 3.5 years. So the very latest the midpoint could occur is December 2019. So we're going to look at 2019, 2018, 2017, and 2016. Those are the only 4 years that there is for us to consider. So that's real easy, right? What about the day of the year? Now, both previous temples were defiled on the 9th of Av. That is the Jewish day of mourning. So we have every reason through this pattern to believe that the third temple will also be defiled on the 9th of Av. But as we look for our year, so we have our day of the year, right? The 9th of Av. But as we look for our year, very specific qualifications are required for the year that that's the one. The 9th of Av has to occur very shortly before and not after a blood moon. a real blood moon, which is a total lunar eclipse. You have to have a total lunar eclipse within a very short few days after the 9th of Av. It can't be before the 9th of Av. It has to be after the 9th of Av, and it can't be very far after the 9th of Av. It has to be really close. Now, we have our day of the year, the 9th of Av. So now we're going to look at which year. 2016, we can eliminate right away because there is no existing temple to defile. 2017, no blood moon. 2018, that one's special. We'll set it aside just for a second. 2019, there's a blood moon in January, but it's nowhere near the 9th of Av in July, the July-August time period. So we've been able to disqualify 2016, 2017, and 2019. Let's look at 2018. 2018 is very special. There is a triad of blood moons, real blood moons, total lunar eclipses, not environmental blood moons or freak blood moons, okay? These are true blood moons. They're eclipses, full lunar eclipses. There's a triad of lunar eclipses that straddles the entire year of 2018, January, July, January, right? So you've got this triad of blood moons over 2018. Well, is there any other evidence? Yes, from 1948 to 2018, that's 70 years for Israel, and that's all they're promised, okay? 70 years. And that's very important. That's a key thing there, 70 years for Israel. Then this temple will be defiled, and the Jews will have to flee. Then, okay, so it's a very special year in prophetic terms. So you've got the 9th of Av, and you've got on July 21st, 2018. Then 6 days later, you got the full blood moon, which is the indicator for that is necessary for the 6th seal, which is expected immediately after the defiling of the temple. Okay, see how all of this fits together? So you've got this, you've got the 6th seal 6 days after the temple is defiled, and then it's 6 weeks after the 6th seal is opened before Jesus shows up in the clouds with power and great glory. So look at all those sixes everywhere. It's amazing how all of this fits perfectly. Perfectly. So now we have in 2018, the 9th of Av is July 21st, 2018. Then 6 days later, the blood moon, which indicates the opening of the 6th seal on July 27th, 2018. That's where the Lord descends from heaven with a shout from the 3rd heaven into the 2nd heaven, which is outer space, and a war takes place for about 6 weeks, and Satan is cast down. And then at the last trump of the Feast of Trumpets in 2018 is when we should expect the Lord to show up in the clouds in power and great glory for his glorious appearing. And yes, that's right. We can't know the day or the hour. I'm not trying to give you a day and an hour. I'm giving you a month and a year. There's nothing that says we won't know the month and the year, and we do. I think we do. So it looks like September 2018. Now, we can't give you a day or an hour until we get to September 2018, and the priests see the new moon and declare the Feast of Trumpets has started. Once they declare the feast started, then that's our 48-hour notice, and we will know the hour after that, okay? But we won't know it until we get right there to the feast. And that feast is called the feast where no man knows the day or the hour. That is the one where the Jews expect the Messiah to show up. But it's not going to be the one they expect in 2018. It's going to be Jesus Christ. It's going to be the coolest thing ever. I can hardly wait. Now, does anybody have any questions about this evidence? I want to make it clear for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll go over your question and make sure. Hi, Brian, Deb, Shirley, Janine, everybody doing okay? I'm so glad to see all of you. Welcome, welcome. Okay, I don't see any questions. Nope, don't see any questions. Okay, let's get back into it. Now, have you noticed that all of this just fits together perfectly? It's all scripturally perfect as far as I can tell. I have not been able to find any kind of flaw in this timing. This is research, not magic, so it's not a prediction, but it is, what I'm telling you is that this is what the research says. Okay? That doesn't mean I'm right, but it does mean we've got evidence that points in a certain direction, and that's what I'm giving you. So what do we do once we know that our midpoint is July 21st, 2016? Once we know that, we count backward and forward by 1,260 days to find our tribulation period parameters, which means that the tribulation period actually started, according to my research, okay, February 7th, 2015, and runs through January 1st, 2022. And it's odd that it ends up on the 1st of January because we really use the Hebrew calculations. That's just that's a Gregorian translation for you, okay? Because it occurs on the 9th of Av on the Hebrew calendar, and then, you know, but to convert it to Gregorian so you actually understand what I'm saying here, February 7th, 2015 was the start of the tribulation period, and January 1st, 2022 wraps it up with our midpoint being July 21st, 2018, 6 seal openings 6 days later on July 27th, 2018 at that blood moon. Okay? Now, where we are right now is this is the last day of the month. We're going into our 17th month of the tribulation period. We are still awaiting several events, and among them are the treaty. We're still watching for a treaty. You know, for years as Bible prophecy students, we were taught by those who came before us that the treaty started the tribulation period, but it doesn't, obviously. We're figuring these things out as we get closer and God unseals more information for us. But that is the evidence. I'll be glad to answer any questions that any of you have about these things. Look at it yourself and see the triad of blood moons, the proximity between the defiling of the temple and the blood moon, which is required by the 6th seal. It just all fits biblically. And like I said, it doesn't mean I'm right, but it all fits. It's a scriptural possibility because I have not been able to disqualify it scripturally. So that is exciting, isn't it? I have not been able to disqualify it, which is why I keep showing it to you and keep showing it to you, because it could be right, okay? It could be right. The decree from Cyrus to Nehemiah to the crucifixion, and then what is that? I have no idea what that is that I'm hearing. What is that? It sounds like someone's phone ringing. It's not mine. My phone's not ringing. Okay. Who knows? Okay. Now, does anybody have any questions? I want to be sure and answer your questions if you have them. It's important to remember that you have the tribulation period started possibly February 7th, 2015. Oh, just over a year ago. The midpoint, July 21st, 2018. Wrapping up January 1st, 2022, which means he has shortened the days by a year and a half. That's how far he's shortened the days, by a year and a half, or no flesh would be saved. Interesting, isn't it? Israel and Jerusalem must be together for the prophetic clock to run. 1967 June, that's when it started running again at the 56 years, and you got 2023. Now, I've laid this out on my wall many times. It looks like we are going into our 17th month of the tribulation period. We are still watching for the treaty. We're still watching for the economic collapse. Now, that is coming. Now, I don't know when, no clue. I am not an economist, and I don't care about money, really. I don't watch the stocks. I don't watch any of that. But I understand that it's getting much, much more difficult for people to make it. And as food supplies dwindle and skyrocket in price, people are going to go hungry, okay? We aren't used to that in America, are we? But they are used to that in other parts of the world. And we're just really spoiled and cushy over here, aren't we? We need to harden up and be good soldiers for Christ Jesus. Okay. Did I miss anything when I was laying this out for you? Daniel's 70 weeks, 490 years, starts the decree of Cyrus to Nehemiah until the crucifixion, 434 years, or 62 weeks of years, with 56 years remaining. Israel and Jerusalem have to be together for the prophecies to take place. In 1967 June, Israel recaptured Jerusalem. The clock began ticking with 56 years on it. And June 2016 June 1967 plus 56 years is 2023. That's the end of our generation. Then if the last 7 years, and according to the end of the generation, would be June 2016 to June 2023. That's at the very latest, but God shortened the days. So then we looked for our midpoint to see how much. We had to find a time that coincides biblically with all the biblical criteria that is required in only 4 years to choose from. And we did find 1 year that qualifies, believe it or not. So 2018 is going to be a very, very big year in Bible prophecy. It looks like Jesus' return could be in September of 2018. Anywhere between, excuse me, anywhere between September 9th and September 12th, 2018. What do you want to bet? It's probably on September 11th. Wouldn't that be a trip? So anyway, now we know when our 7 years are. After the 7 years, we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll come back right after this.